Testing, testing, is this thing on? Today I have collected 10 of my favorite myths that I have been hearing in the running world lately, and I'm going to bust them, or at least clarify some of them, because some of them are not entirely bad as long as you interpret it correctly. In order to debunk these running myths, I have created what I like to call the wall of running mythology. Do you like it? Before I get into today's video, I want to clarify that these are mostly based on my opinions. Of course, I've read lots of research articles. I have trained with Olympians. I have had some of the best coaches in the world. I do believe my opinion is fairly reliable, but not everything is completely scientifically fact-checked. That said, I will link some sources down in the description to back up some of my claims. You should know that none of these are in any particular order, except for the last one. That is one I think you want to stick around for. It might completely change your perspective. I don't want to waste too much time. Let's jump right in. Myth number 1. The 80-20 rule. Yeah, that's right. I've been hearing this one a lot recently. If you're not familiar with this rule, what it basically means is 80% of all your training should be slow, easy running, and 20% should be your hard workout sessions, faster running of any kind. This came out because it was discovered when you study elite athletes that they run roughly 80% of their training is easy and the other 20% is made up of their, okay, you get the idea. It doesn't make any sense to base your training on this rule. So why would you care to follow it? It was simply an observation, a rough average. That's what it was. Let's just pretend for a moment that Billy Joe had a training schedule where in a week he had a first session where he ran fast repeats with 3 miles of volume, and the second session that week he ran 5 miles of volume, making for 8 miles of volume. That would mean to meet this 80-20 rule, I don't know why I picked 8 miles, that's kind of difficult math. Our friend Billy Joe here would have to run 32 miles of easy running. Why? That's completely arbitrary. The workouts do not dictate the mileage. I guess what I'm trying to say here is I do believe in polarized training, easy running and hard running. However, this ratio of 80-20 is somewhat of a one-size-fits-all that doesn't really make sense for all training weeks or for all levels of experience in runners. And I'm worried that people that base their training off of this rule may miss the real fundamentals that make you a faster runner. Basing your training around this 80-20 rule, I think, is ridiculous. Consider the myth explained and clarified. That brings us to myth number 2. You might be thinking, Michael, you would not dare attack heart rate, would you? Heart rate is a good indication of effort. I say wrong. It is absolutely not a good indication. If you are brand new to the sport, I can see how if you don't know what it feels like to run easy pace or race pace at different distances or your threshold pace or VO2 max pace, it makes potential sense to use heart rate as a baseline as you're getting started. But let me just tell you, as an experienced runner, having studied lots of people's workouts and races, including their heart rates, that it is not consistent with what you think, okay? Sometimes my heart rate is like 150 when I'm going on an easy run just because it's hot. But I'm telling you, it's still conversational and easy. I don't know why my heart's doing that. And I can also tell you that sometimes my heart rate drops to 150 for like 6 miles in the middle of a marathon, running 5 flat. Why does it do that? I don't know. My only point here is that heart rate is not a great indication of your effort. You need to learn how to run those paces and know what they feel like. Heart rate does not dictate what is physiologically happening, how you're feeling. All of that can be correlated with heart rate, but it is not an end-all be-all rule to follow by. On to myth number 3. There is no platform that makes it easy to get what you're craving, from your favorite local spots to national chains where customers can browse, order, and track deliveries in just a few taps. Now, I know that this is false because the sponsor of today's video, Uber Eats, is a platform that does exactly all of those things. Uber Eats makes it super easy and convenient to browse and find the restaurants and the grocery stores that are just near you. You can discover places that maybe you haven't even heard of in your own area. Additionally, Personally, I love Uber Eats because they're always providing deals so that you can find ways to save money on different options if you're browsing. And if you're like me, it is just nice to have it in my back pocket for those moments that life is just really tough to get out the door. If you need it in your back pocket, it's there, it's easy and convenient. Uber Eats is offering my viewers $15 off their first order of at least $20. That's actually kind of an insane deal if you think about it. If you order something that's like 25 bucks, you're effectively getting 60% off. So it's a no-brainer. Download Uber Eats today. Use my code and link down in the description to get your $15 discount on your first order. Thank you so much to Uber Eats for sponsoring this video. Back to the wall of mythology. That was not the real number 3, obviously. Myth number 3. Train smarter, not harder. Obviously, okay, you need to figure out how to train correctly. This is not the video to teach you how to do that. I have some other videos I'll link in the description that will help you learn how to train to run faster. But in general, if we're talking about what is it that is holding people back from getting faster, it is not that they need to change their training necessarily, it's that they're just not training hard enough. The key to doing that, and to be smart about it, is to grind on the recovery. The more you can recover, the more you can train hard. I'm sorry, but all the fastest runners are simply training more than people that are slower. That is just a fact. Unless we're talking middle distance, I don't want to talk about that. Myth number 4. Be consistent and run every day. Recently, I've noticed a trend in the running world, which is called a run streak. I'm gonna be upfront with you right now. The longest run streak I have ever held to date is 13 days. In fact, many of us that train here in Provo, including some of the best marathoners in the country, take a day off every single week. Being consistent is important, yes. Tracking your mileage, important, yes. Running every single day, no. In fact, sometimes I think it can be harmful. Taking the time off to properly recover is vitally important. The key is the balance between stress plus rest. If you get too caught up in running every day, you might forget to make sure to listen to your body and rest the proper amount. Myth number 5. Stretch before you run to avoid injury. Let me clarify this to say static stretching before you run to avoid the injury. Pretend I used correct grammar with that sentence. I learned as a kid in school, perhaps you did too, that you should stretch to make sure you don't get hurt. I have since learned that static stretching can actually put strain on your tendons, on the connection points between your muscles and your bone, and things that are just simply unnecessary and don't actually warm up the muscles properly. In certain cases, static stretching can be useful and helpful in your recovery, in helping you stay less injured, but that's honestly on a case-by-case basis with your body. The older you get, this becomes a bit more obvious. If you want to do any sort of stretching before you run, I recommend you do dynamic stretches after you've already jogged for a little bit. Some other things that I might do are just some small activations. Myth number 6. I'm having way too much fun presenting to this camera while standing here. Drink electrolytes to prevent muscle cramping. This is a lie that was preached to me countless times when I was dealing with my muscle cramping from my marathoning. Let me just be clear, I am talking about muscle cramping, and this is typically something that occurs late in a really long race, such as a marathon or longer. Say your calf, your hamstring, something starts to seize up from the fatigue, and they say, you needed to drink more electrolytes, you needed to eat a banana. There are cases where an electrolyte deficiency can result in cramping. This is just not the case for most people. Most people have plenty of electrolytes in their system to get them through a marathon without cramping, okay? I mean, maybe you're gonna dehydrate faster, or you're gonna feel it, but muscle cramping? In the last cycle for the Olympic trials, I tried to qualify by running sub 2:18 in the marathon for the US Olympic trials. I failed, running just down to 2:18:55. I had literally had extreme debilitating muscle cramping in every single previous marathon until I ran 2:18:55, which was a 4-minute PR at the time, because my cramping was significantly less bad. I need better vocabulary to say a word better than bad. And let me tell you exactly what worked and what didn't work. Electrolytes did nothing. I ran races with no electrolytes and races with an extreme amount of electrolytes, literally no difference in the cramping. It was exactly the same. The only thing that truly helped was increasing my mileage and hitting the weight room hard. Telling yourself that all you need to do is drink electrolytes is stopping you from doing what you actually need to do to get better and to prevent those cramps, which is just run more and lift more. People might get mad at me for just saying, you know, train harder and you won't cramp, but that's the solution. 7. I thought this was fitting, coming right after the muscle cramping. When you are strength training, reps should be low weight and high volume. Sorry, that is actually completely false. I don't know where this rumor started or why people think this. Maybe just because running is sort of a low weight, high volume exercise. But to improve your running and your muscles surrounding your running, you need to do the opposite. Okay, the benefit of getting in the weight room is being able to stimulate your muscles at a high intensity. What it's like late in a race when you have some extreme fatigue. This is a way to shortcut that to really strengthen those other muscles that don't get activated a lot while you're running. So in reality, the correct intensity, in my opinion, is roughly what you can do for about 3 or 4 sets of 8 reps for whatever the exercise is. That's about the correct intensity. This is just, again, from my experience and but you can't quote me to. Myth number 8. Run fasted to increase your body's ability to run fast using fats. The claim is if you run when you're really hungry, fasted, then your body will be forced to use more fat as your source of energy while you're running. This is true, and you might be able to train your body to use more fat while you're running. Here's the problem. If you're trying to run fast, why are you trying to burn fats? Glycogen is the energy source that is used to run fast for high intensity exercise in pretty much every single case. So I ask you, what's the point? The only thing this is going to do is to make you suffer and struggle to recover. If you're trying to run a fast marathon or a fast ultra or something, what you should be doing is training your body to just stomach the glycogen, the carbohydrates that you need. Myth number 9. Yes, the 10% mileage increase rule. If you're not familiar with this rule, it basically says don't ever increase your weekly mileage by more than 10% than the previous week. Now, this isn't a terrible rule. If you don't want to get hurt and you always follow this rule, your chances of getting hurt are lower, probably, but your chances of getting fast are also much lower. Here's a couple hypotheticals that I think could debunk this rule right off the bat. Let's assume you're a beginner and you decided to follow this rule to the T. And the first week you ran 10 miles and then you increase your mileage by 10% every single week for the rest of the year. By the end of the year, you'd be running a ton and you're still extremely likely to get injured. Another possible scenario where I don't like this rule, let's say that you finish your season and then you decided to take your break and then you decide to, slowly ramp your mileage up and you're like, oh, the 10% rule, I can't increase it too much. I mean, that's ridiculous. You were just doing it, okay? Your body's already done this before. You're not gonna hurt yourself, most likely, just because you decide to jump back up to your mileage in just a few weeks rather than following this rather arbitrary 10% rule. Here's the thing. If you want to be intentional about your training, then the point is to listen to your body day by day as you're trying to hit your mileage goals. If you want to make a 20% increase, it's totally doable. I just think you need to take it day by day. You need to learn how to treat your injuries, your subtle little niggles in your legs. I learned that word from a comment in one of my videos recently. Niggles. Sorry, that's just a funny word. Is that British? Niggles. Learn how to address little niggles. I can't say it without laughing. Learn how to address little niggles in your legs so that you can stay healthy while doing the increase in mileage. So it may not be the worst rule in the world when you're getting up to high mileage, not to increase too much, but I will tell you that the fastest people are not following this rule, okay? They're simply talking with their coach about what mileage makes sense to take them to the next level, and then they're meeting with their physical therapist and their trainer, and they're making sure they stay healthy while they increase their mileage. This is misleading, and you might still get hurt if that's what you're depending on to keep you safe. All of this leads me to the final myth that I want to talk about today. Without further ado. Niggle, 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 niggle. You will be happier when you are faster. Let me just take this moment to say that being fast and running does not make you happy. It's fun, and it's very satisfying to train hard, to get fast, to win a race. These are all thrilling and extremely satisfying moments that come from the sport of running. But let me just say it one more time. It does not make you happy. Happiness is found in something much deeper. It does not comes simply from a sport. Ask anybody on either side of the spectrum, the fastest people in the sport versus the slowest people in the sport. Is their level of happiness dramatically different? No. Your worth as a person and your happiness does not depend on how fast you are. I think that happiness comes from the 3 F's. This is the rule that I live by. Your faith, your family, and your fastest PR. Let me know down in the comments if you disagree with any of these takes. I got this new mic, which is super fun. You can clip it to like anything you want to do. Look at that. So if you haven't already, go ahead, leave a comment down below about what you thought of this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.